Hello everybody, Mannix here. Going to be doing the long-awaited review on the Cold Steel Espada Large. This is an absolutely amazing knife. I happen to love Cold Steel, huge Cold Steel fanboy. This is a knife I sought after for years and years and years, almost for as long as I knew Cold Steel. By the way, this is in 4K. Lately I've been making my videos in 4K, so if you're watching this on a big old TV, you'll hopefully pick up on every single little beautiful detail on this beast. Once I got a second stimulus check a few months ago, I just pulled the trigger on it. I was tired of lusting after the knife. Like, well, 200, I don't like to spend more than 100 knives. Like, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to buy the knife because I want it, and I don't regret it at all. These knives are absolutely amazing. They're huge, they're beautiful, I think. They're really over the top. When it comes to actual use, these are very cumbersome. They're really ridiculous. If you want a useful knife of this same size, this shape, honestly, I would get the G10 version. It's basically the exact same thing, same materials, only they have G10 handle scales instead of the stainless steel and the micarta. I believe it's micarta that you're seeing right here. And I think they have a stonewash finish? I can't remember. I had an older version of the G10 Espada. I think they're stonewash now. They used to be bead blasted, but this is a satin finish. Honestly, I would prefer a stonewash finish. That's my favorite finish. But for this blade, I think the satin finish works a little better. It looks really glossy. Let me get you some specs. Oh, this knife is just sick. It's beautiful. It's a huge knife. Look, in my large size hands for glove reference, that's how much you have. I have so much reach here. It's just absolutely gorgeous, absolutely menacing blade. Again, it's smooth. There's no jimps anywhere. So it is a very useful, powerful knife. It's just, it's a little slippery too. So just keep that in mind. This is not a go-to survival blade or a go-to defensive blade. I would not recommend it. I would recommend something a little bit more grippy. But it's beautiful. It's kind of novelty, and it is still functional at the end of the day. So it retails at $449.95. Wow, it's almost a $500 knife, but you can get these all day long for around like $210, $220 range on different websites, so almost half, but basically half the price. 12.25 inch overall length, so it's just over a foot long. The blade length is 5.5 inches, its cutting edge 5.25 inches, making the handle length 6.75 inches, I believe? I didn't write it down for some reason. Yeah, 6.75 inch handle. Very long knife. So stainless steel bolster right here, which is mirror polished, by the way, versus the satin finish hollow grind on the blade right here. They call this a trailing point style blade. 9.82 ounces, so it is heavy, although it feels light for its size. It's actually very lightweight and balanced for being such a huge knife. Could have been lighter if they used, a material like a G10 or even FRN with like aluminum liners or something. That would have been pretty sweet. But no, there's a nod given to style with this knife in particular. It's supposed to be an expensive, outrageous kind of knife, and it's beautiful too. Absolutely gorgeous blade. The most beautiful knife in my collection, period. And the blade steel is AUS 8, which actually, no, Cold Steel upgraded it. Guess what it is? S35VN, baby. S35VN, that's what drags this price up so high, because that's an extremely high quality blade steel. It easily bypasses 440C, 8013MOV, even VG10, 154CM, all the higher ups. It is a very high quality blade steel. It's a very high chromium content, from what I read, an extra vanadium and niobium carbides. I don't know much about niobium, but basically it's very wear and corrosion resistant. It has extremely good edge retention. It gets really sharp. It's just an all-around great blade steel. The only disadvantage I could possibly think of with this blade steel is that it is expensive. There are no other disadvantages I can really think, unless you're comparing it to other really high-end stuff. S35VN is an extremely high-quality blade steel, and having such a high-quality blade steel on such a huge, a massive blade and a massive knife is really going to make the thing valuable. By the way, it has the triad lock, one of the strongest locking mechanisms in the world. I would easily put it in top 4 locking mechanisms, the other 3 being the Balisong / the butterfly knife, the Cold Steel Ram Safe locking mechanism, and then the Paratrooper style folder. Although I don't think they're actually called Paratrooper, I think they're called Paragons. I can't remember the name, it's a parrot something knife. All of those are very strong locking mechanism design. This triad lock is up there though. It's a lockback with a big old stop pin in the middle. The lockback already is one of the stronger locking mechanisms out there, but with the addition of that stop pin right there, Cold Steel invented this locking mechanism, by the way. The stop pin absorbs basically all of the positive force, that's force going on the edge, and then the negative force, which normally would just be absorbed by the lock bar, that's force going onto the spine of the blade, is once again transferred to the stop pin. So basically you have this 3-part integral locking mechanism where the stop pin becomes this giant shock absorber for all of the force that you put on these things. There's tests on these locking mechanisms, and it's kind of over the top. Even the Benchmade Axis lock, I think, can withstand hundreds and hundreds of pounds. This is going to be even above that. It's just so ridiculous. See, having extremely strong locking mechanisms on folders is kind of redundant because, like, what are you going to be doing with your knife that's going to require that much force? Do you really have to have it lock up like a bank vault? How strong does it really need to be? You might as well just get a fixed blade. There are advantages, however. I'm not one of the guys who laughs at ridiculous, over-the-top, huge folders because fixed blades that are huge, they're annoying for me to carry. I don't carry fixed blades because I think they're difficult to conceal. People freak out when they see you carrying a fixed blade on you. They're cumbersome. The sheath gets in the way and pokes you. It's annoying. It's like carrying a gun to me. I mean, a gun, I'll sacrifice my comfort to carry a gun. There's plenty of reasons for that. But a knife, if I can carry a folder and fit it comfortably in my pocket, have it a little more covert, scare less sheeple, I'll definitely do that. Especially if it's a big old knife like this. If I can conceal something as huge and ridiculous as this knife, it's that useful and has this much reach and would easily win you any knife fight. I feel like, not to get into knife fights, don't do that. It's a really bad idea. But just saying, it's just, I think there is actually a tangible, practical use for these big old ridiculous folders. They do have their purpose. They're very cumbersome. They're not the most useful, but they do have their place in the knife community. I don't think they're just a novelty. I don't think they're jokes or toys. These are serious tools that are not to be laughed at, and they are actually useful. Having such a ridiculously wide or long blade like this fit into your pocket comfortably is kind of a milestone. I think that's pretty good, especially one with such an extremely strong locking mechanism. You don't have to worry about this, landing on your fingers and cutting yourself. I love this blade shape. Absolutely love this menacing belly, this sweep up right here. I love the cutout right here. It's basically like a Bowie or a clip point. But again, they call it a trailing point, which I guess is because it's a little more extreme. It's very good at piercing. Although you have to kind of do almost an upswept motion to pierce successfully with this one because you can see the blade itself is a little bit upswept. It's just absolutely gorgeous. The older model of the Cold Steel Espada, I'm talking like 7 years ago or so, it didn't sweep up this much. It had belly, but it kind of stopped right here. I'll roll in a picture if I can find one. But the blade was slightly different than this one. I like this style they went with. Really like this style. Oh, I love that guy. It's just beautiful, absolutely gorgeous blade. Tip up, carry only. Not swappable to the left side, actually. No tip down. This is the only configuration it has. I'm kind of surprised Cold Steel didn't drill some holes in on the other side right here. They usually do in all their knives. They did not on the Espada. So lefties, you may want to consider that. Extremely comfortable grip. I like how it is very smooth and polished. I kind of like how there is no jimping, just for this knife in particular. It's just very smooth. You can see right here, it's kind of beveled on the edges. I like this micarta right here. Grippy, and no, actually it's not very grippy, it's smooth. Take that back, it's very smooth. Very beautiful pattern right here, very comfortable. I like these ridges or notches they have down here. So you can scooch all the way down here. You have a lot of reach right here. You cannot reach most people's fixed blades with this thing. There's a lot to hold on to. I feel also comfortable right here. You could scooch up here if you wanted to, if you wanted a little more control. This is going to be the standard grip. And then, of course, you can choke up like this, putting your middle finger in the main choil right here, and then using this as a quote-unquote choil, the ricasso of the blade and the bolster of the handle to do some precision work if you had to with this beast. You can scooch like even further down here, but if my pinky's not holding on, I feel like I just don't have enough grip. I feel like it's going to get knocked out of my hand relatively easily. So I'll just grip right there. So you have a lot of different positions you can put yourself with. I would say 4 main good positions. It's just, this is about as most as you can choke up on it, do some shaving work or something more precise. So it's very comfortable. It's really good looking. Reminds me of a rhino or something. I love the micarta and the mirror polish bolster right there. As you can see my fingers reflecting in the mirror. Normally I don't love mirror polishes because they pick up your sponges very easily, but it's not that big of a deal. It's just the bolster. I like the satin finish they went on the blade. As you can see in contrast of the two finishes right here. I like the thumb plate they put in here. Big old wide thumb plate with a lot of jimping or ridges in there. Works every single time to open it up. The thumb plate right here is waveable off the pocket. Pocket works very well. It's very smooth. That's what you're going to be seeing. And if you saw this in someone's pocket, would you expect that to happen? Probably not. So that is what the wave does. It's not really a wave, it's basically just a thumb plate, but it doubles as a wave. You can snag it on the pocket when you are deploying it for a defensive purpose or trying to get out quickly. Now, because you don't have a whole lot to grip onto, however, it can be a little tricky. You do have to practice with it. I haven't practiced with it very much, but I get into this position, which is not that secure, I feel like, but once I scooch up like this, then it's secure. So that is one of the disadvantages to having the pocket clip kind of high riding like this, it's hard. There's less to grip onto, especially being such a huge knife. So you really have to practice if you got this one in particular, especially in comparison to the G10 version. But the upside is that it doesn't look like there's a huge knife in your pocket, as opposed to something like the Cold Steel Raja, which I will roll in right now. Cold Steel Raja. So the pocket clip's much bigger, it's much lower riding, there's a lot more to grip onto, and it's way easier to wave off the pocket and get into position when you are deploying it. But that being said, a lot of people can see this. It looks like you have something on you. It looks like a pocket machete is sticking out of your pocket. So it's going to be up to you. As far as use goes, the Cold Steel Raja is a little bit easier to use if you're out in the woods and such, but if you are in civilization, you might scare some sheeple. So the covertness of the Espada is something to consider. The detent is usually what retains a knife that has like a liner lock or something. I don't think this really has a detent. It just uses the pressure from the torsion bar on the back lock, the lockback bar right here. Or triad bar, I should say. So it closes with a fair amount of authority. It's not like a huge wham, like snap, like an alligator shutting down. But you will cut yourself pretty bad if this were to land on your fingers. So keep your fingers clear of that for sure. I don't see this knife failing any time on you, but it's on the slippery side. So it's slightly contradictory. You know, if you're looking for an outdoorsman's knife that's just going to do everything for you, this has a lot of reach and is super strong and really grippy, this is not the knife for you, despite having such a good blade steel. S35VN is insanely good, having so much of it. This really is a magical folding knife. It is very expensive, but you do get what you pay for. That being said, it's kind of like encrusting a knife with jewels. Like, if you were to put a bunch of expensive rubies into a knife, it makes the value go up, but does it make the use of the knife go up? Not really. That's kind of what this knife's like when you compare it to their G10 version. It's more beautiful, I think, but as far as actual use go, because it's less grippy and therefore I would say less safe for such a wide, huge blade, you really do have to want this knife for its looks. And if you're that fancy guy and you just want something sweet, that's what this knife's for. You want a sweet, giant knife. It's not only a giant knife that will outreach all the other knives and such, it's even sexier than all of them. Hands down, this is the one. Cold Steel Espada Large.